Okay, so let's dive into a topic that could, well, quite literally split human history in two. What happens after a nuclear war? In the worst case scenario, yeah, mass fires could kill hundreds of millions in just a few hours. But the real civilization-ending threat, that comes later. It's called nuclear winter, and it might kill billions. So how does that even work, and what would it actually look like? You see, the immediate blasts are absolutely horrifying, but the true apocalypse isn't just the explosion. No, it's the world that comes after. It's a long, slow catastrophe that unfolds when the sky itself turns against us. To really wrap our heads around this potential apocalypse, we first have to understand the terrifying mechanism that kicks it all off. It's this unbelievable chain reaction that starts with heat that you can't even imagine and ends in a global freeze. It's this terrifyingly efficient four-step process. So first, you get what they call a terra bubble, basically a pocket of gas that's hotter than the sun, and it just ignites massive firestorms. Now, these fires are so powerful, they create their own weather. They form these colossal pyrocumulonimbus clouds. Think of them like giant, smoky thunderclouds that act as elevators, just punching soot high, high up into the stratosphere, way above where rain could ever wash it out. And up there, it just stays. You know, the scale here is it's hard to grasp. We're talking about up to 150 million tons of soot. To try and visualize that, imagine a cube of pure black soot the size of a skyscraper. Now imagine that cube getting smeared across the upper atmosphere, forming this thin, persistent blanket over the entire planet. And what's so frightening is just how fast this all happens. This isn't like climate change taking place over decades. No, the soot blankets the Earth in just days and weeks. It's not like science fiction where the sun suddenly disappears. It's much simpler, and maybe scarier. Just a little less sunlight reaches the ground and the engine of our world just begins to shut down. So let's move on to the consequences. Let's see how this one act, blocking the sun, cascades into a truly global catastrophe. Because when you dim the sun, the very first thing to die is our food supply. Our entire civilization, I mean everything, is built on the predictable rhythm of our climate. But nuclear winter throws all of that into chaos, almost instantly. Summers could just disappear. And with less evaporation happening over the oceans, rainfall could plummet, triggering massive droughts. The whole climate system gets disrupted faster than anything can adapt. And that is devastating because, to put it simply, our food eats the sun. And here's the crucial point. Our global food supply is incredibly concentrated. See, most of us live in what's called the mid-latitudes, these temperate zones between the tropics and the poles. And the food we all depend on comes from just a few super productive regions in those zones, the world's breadbaskets. And these are the exact areas a large-scale nuclear war would likely target. The result would be that for years, the most productive farmlands on the entire planet would stay frozen solid. Nothing could grow. The breadbaskets that feed billions of people would suddenly just turn empty, silent, and barren. And you gotta understand, this isn't just a food crisis. It's the complete unraveling of all the complex systems that keep billions of us alive. Without fuel for tractors, or fertilizer for fields, or ports to ship grain, modern agriculture just stops. Humanity only has a few weeks of food stored up. After that, famine on a scale you can't even imagine begins. Okay, so let's look at what the research actually says about a few potential nuclear war scenarios, because even the small ones are catastrophic. Scientists have modeled what a more limited nuclear exchange could look like. And look, it's an active area of research, and these models do have some uncertainties. It really all depends on how much stuff burns really hot. But even so, the consequences would be absolutely staggering, and they would be global. The numbers are just staggering. In this scenario, the initial blast would kill 27 million people. That's more than all the deaths of World War I combined. But the nuclear autumn that follows would mess with global agriculture enough to starve up to 250 million people. The famine would be almost 10 times deadlier than the bombs themselves. But that's the small case. In the worst-case scenario, a war between the major nuclear powers, the numbers become almost incomprehensible. In a scenario like this, around 360 million people die pretty much right away. We have no event in human history to compare this to. It's like humanity just decides to drop an asteroid on itself. And believe it or not, that's just the beginning. After a war like that, a full nuclear winter would set in. Global food production, the total number of calories available to humanity, would plummet by as much as 90%. And the results of that? Within just 2 years, 5 billion people could starve to death. In those mid-latitude countries that produce most of the world's food, we're talking the US, a lot of Europe, Russia, China, maybe only a few percent of the population would survive. So, is there any hope? Could anyone actually survive this and rebuild? Well, while nowhere is truly safe, the models do suggest a few nations might fare a bit better. Since all the nuclear states are in the Northern Hemisphere, countries like Australia, New Zealand, and Argentina might experience a less severe winter. They could probably stop exporting food and focus on keeping their own populations alive, assuming, of course, they don't get invaded by desperate, starving neighbors. But for the vast majority of humanity, civilization as we know it would be over. The survivors would be thrown back into a pre-industrial world, trying to rebuild on a planet full of scars and graves. Recovery wouldn't take centuries. It could take millennia. And all of this leaves us with one final, profound question. If humanity somehow managed to claw its way back from the brink, to rebuild everything we've lost, would we learn our lesson? Or would the cycle just begin all over again? It's a question we should all hope we never, ever have to answer.